For most people, the word potash might conjure up images of dusty chemistry labs or forgotten science lessons, but for American farmers, potash is as vital as the soil beneath their boots and the rain that nourishes their crops. Potash, a mineral packed with potassium, is one of the three essential nutrients, alongside nitrogen and phosphorus, that modern agriculture simply can't function without. It strengthens plant cell walls, boosts resistance to disease, and is absolutely critical for achieving the high crop yields that feed millions. Without enough potash, crops become weak, more vulnerable to drought and pests, and yields can plummet, leaving farms struggling to survive. That's why, year after year, American farmers must carefully replenish their soil's potassium, making potash a non-negotiable input for both food security and the health of rural economies. Any disruption or sudden price spike in potash sends shockwaves through the entire agricultural system, affecting everything from planting decisions to grocery store shelves. When potash costs rise, so do farmers' expenses, threatening already thin profit margins and putting the future of family farms at risk. Government policy on potash isn't just about international trade, it's about the price of food, the survival of farms, and America's continued role as a global breadbasket. The 2025 potash tariffs are a stark reminder of how quickly a political decision can spiral into an economic crisis for those who feed the nation. The story of potash is the story of American agriculture's hidden engine, an invisible force powering our food supply, and a reminder of what's at stake when that engine is threatened. In early 2025, the Trump administration shocked the agricultural world with sweeping tariffs, including a 25% levy on Canadian potash. For farmers, this was a direct hit. Potash is a lifeline, not a luxury. Farm state lawmakers pushed back hard, warning the tariff would devastate rural America. Under pressure, the administration reduced the potash tariff to 10% and temporarily suspended all new tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods until April. But the uncertainty lingered, with a separate 10% tariff on Chinese imports still in place. Farmers were left in limbo, unable to plan or budget, as Washington's trade maneuvers threatened their livelihoods. The March 2025 tariff saga wasn't just policy, it was a high-stakes gamble with the future of American agriculture. America's dependence on Canadian potash is absolute. Over 80% of U.S. potash is imported, and nearly all of it comes from Canada. This reliance is deeply rooted in the agricultural practices and supply chains that have been established over decades. Saskatchewan's vast deposits and established supply chains make Canada the only viable source for American farmers. The region's infrastructure is specifically designed to support this massive export. Companies like Nutrien supply 40% of the U.S. market, moving millions of tons south every year. This steady flow is crucial for maintaining the productivity of American farms. When tariffs were proposed, industry leaders warned the cost would land squarely on American farmers, not Canadian producers. The economic impact would ripple through the entire agricultural sector. Even a 10% tariff meant a massive new expense for U.S. agriculture, with no alternative supply in sight. Farmers would face increased costs that could threaten their livelihoods. The crisis exposed a critical vulnerability. America's food system depends on open trade with Canada. Any disruption could have severe consequences for food security. Potash isn't just another import, it's the backbone of U.S. crop production. Without it, crop yields would plummet, affecting the entire food supply chain. Using it as a bargaining chip in trade disputes risks breaking a partnership that underpins North American agriculture. The relationship between the two countries is vital for both economies. The American farmer, with no substitute, would pay the highest price. Their dependence on Canadian potash is a matter of survival. The potash supply chain is a quiet but essential link, one that can't be easily replaced or rerouted. Its stability is crucial for the agricultural sector. The 2025 tariffs revealed just how fragile that link really is. The agricultural community must remain vigilant to protect this vital resource. Even before the tariff threats, American farmers faced a tough year. Low crop prices, high costs, and shrinking profits. The potash tariff turned hardship into crisis, slashing net returns for corn and soybeans by a third in just weeks. Crop prices fell, input costs soared, and many farms plunged deep into the red before planting even began. Anxiety swept the countryside. Nearly half of farmers saw trade policy as their top threat, even above crop insurance. Trust in Washington eroded as farmers feared for their exports and their future. Fertilizer company stocks tumbled, reflecting Wall Street's alarm. For farmers, it was personal rising bills, falling income, and the fear that their family farm might not survive another season. The tariff crisis wasn't just about economics, it was about the survival of rural America. Canada didn't back down. Instead, it hit back with targeted tariffs on $21 billion of U.S. goods. The most painful move banning pork imports from Smithfield's Tar Heel, North Carolina plant, the world's largest. Canada is a top market for U.S. pork, so the ban hit hard, costing American producers dearly. The trade fight also reignited old disputes, especially over Canada's protected dairy market, where U.S. exports still face sky-high tariffs. Despite barriers, U.S. dairy exports to Canada topped $1.1 billion in 2024, showing how vital the relationship is. Prime Minister Trudeau made it clear the trade war would drag on, with no quick fix in sight. Canada's response was calculated and tough, targeting key U.S. industries to ensure the pain was felt on both sides. The message was unmistakable: Canada would not be bullied, and American farmers would pay the price for Washington's gamble. The rift between two close trading partners had become a full-blown rupture. The trade war's shockwaves reached China, which retaliated with new tariffs on U.S. soybeans and corn. These tariffs were a direct response to American policies, and they sent a clear message: China was ready to look elsewhere for its agricultural needs. For American farmers, it was déjà vu. China had never fully reopened after the 2018 trade war, which cost U.S. agriculture billions. Many rural communities were still struggling to recover from those earlier losses, and the new tariffs only deepened the uncertainty. The new tariffs made U.S. crops less competitive, pushing Chinese buyers to look elsewhere. American soybeans, once a staple in Chinese markets, now face steep price disadvantages and logistical hurdles. Brazil seized the opportunity, expanding production and capturing market share. Brazilian farmers ramped up planting, investing in new technology and infrastructure to meet the surging demand from China. By 2025, Brazil was set to become the world's top soybean producer, supplying 40% of global demand. This rapid growth transformed Brazil into a key player in the global agricultural market, challenging the U.S. for dominance. The shift wasn't temporary. China and other buyers began locking in long-term deals with Brazil. These agreements signaled a lasting change in global supply chains, with Brazil now at the center of the action. U.S. farmers, squeezed by higher input costs and shrinking export markets, watched as their global standing slipped. Many faced tough choices about the future of their farms and livelihoods. America risked becoming a secondary supplier, while Brazil rose as the new agricultural powerhouse. The world's buyers were shifting their focus, and the consequences for U.S. agriculture were profound. The trade war didn't just hurt this year's sales, it threatened the future of U.S. agriculture on the world stage. Generations of progress and hard work were suddenly at risk of being undone. The combination of tariffs and lost trust was a gift to America's biggest competitor. As Brazil's exports soared, the U.S. struggled to regain its footing in a rapidly changing market. The global market was realigning, and the U.S. was losing ground. For American farmers, the challenge was no longer just about prices but about their place in the world's food supply for years to come. The fallout from tariffs, trade wars, and rising competition has left American agriculture at a crossroads. Farmers and industry groups are pleading for stability and long-term solutions, not political games. They want durable trade agreements and a new farm bill to provide a safety net in turbulent times. The stakes are enormous. Food security, rural economies, and America's global influence all hang in the balance. When farmers struggle, the pain ripples through small towns, businesses, and every family's grocery bill. America's reputation as the world's breadbasket is at risk, with rivals eager to fill the void. The 2025 potash tariff debacle is a stark lesson in how one policy can trigger a global chain reaction. Farmers don't want handouts, they want a level playing field and the chance to keep feeding the world.